These globalist.
Now, I know that this is going to be a very tough pill for a lot of you to swallow, but I'm forcing it down your throat for your own good, kids. There is no such thing as the globalists. Right-wing conspiracy theorists, though I'm sure that there are also left-wing conspiracy theorists who think the exact same way, have been, over the course of the past few years, starting to go crazy about the conspiracy of the globalists. They want to abolish all the nation states and form a one-world oppressive dictatorial government owned by the globalists. And then they also want to destroy all freedom, and they want to open all the borders. That's the one thing that they all know. Globalists, the one thing that they want is they want to open all the borders. And they want to open them, and then they will be open, and the borders will be open then, and they will be open. If you watch Alex Jones, which I don't do religiously, but I do find him entertaining from time to time, everything is being blamed on the globalists. Everything that goes wrong anywhere in the world, and specifically in America, it's either the socialists in Venezuela or the globalists. And really, the socialists in Venezuela, aren't they also kind of globalists? There is one group of people who does really exist, and who is the closest real-world approximation to the fictitious version of the globalist that the conspiracy theorists have built up for themselves. And that is some big business interests, well, many big business interests, let's be honest, who want to open the border between first world nations and nations that are not quite first world, so they can cheaply import workers from there and do wage dumping in their native countries. These are the same people who build sweatshops in Taiwan and all that shit. And I'll get back to those people later, but first let's talk about what a globalist actually is supposed to be actually being, which is a person who wants there to be a world government, right? There are people who want that. There are people who want a one world government. Hopefully, I mean, there are some who want it to be united. I don't think that's a good idea. However, I do happen to be one of those people who thinks that there should be a world government. I am a world federalist, and some people call it geo-confederate. I do hope that there will be a world confederacy within the century. What I don't think is a particularly smart idea, even if such a thing comes to pass, is opening all the borders. How a world government would even be done is a whole different discussion that goes on a similar level of political science and theoretical government management and the opposition between balkanization and centralization, you know, federalism versus unionism. It's all very complicated, and I'm not going to get into it because that is a 1-hour video that I might do at some point in the future. So spare me your straw men, because I have said nothing. The people who actually are the globalists, you know, the people with the closest approximation to the fiction that you have constructed inside your minds, they actually benefit from the existence of nation states and borders, right? They want some borders to be abolished, but they massively benefit from the fact that there is a huge difference in between jurisdictions and constituencies and forms of government in different geographical areas. You have these megacorporations that can already curb stomp entire cities. You've seen the thing that with Amazon wanting to open their new headquarters somewhere on the continental United States. And cities are making ridiculous offers to them, where they basically go, okay, you take over the sovereignty of this several million inhabitant city, please build your headquarters where we are so you cannot pay taxes and instead be paid taxes by the people who work for you. Do you know why this is? I'll tell you why this is. It's because these cities have zero power when compared to these massive megacorporations. They have absolutely no bargaining position. The megacorporation can just make the offer to some city and then say, hey, we want all of these concessions that you will give to us, and the city will give those concessions to them because they know that they can just take their business elsewhere. And that is a problem because a lot of corporations are very interested in abolishing your civil liberties. That's just something that we don't really like to talk about. And this scales the bigger international corporations become. I mean, they already use tax havens very liberally, and many nations have become very good at being tax havens. Imagine if there was a globalized tax code and there were no more tax havens, or at least no more massive tax havens where you don't have to pay a federal tax to the world government. Whatever states do in the world government would be their business. That would make tax evasion massively difficult on that level. And you could do the same thing that they do to cities, to small nations in the beginning, right? Oh, you don't want us to just privatize all your water? You don't want to just give us all your water supply that the public has been paid for, and you don't want to give us that for free? Well, then I suppose we won't give you products that we offer, like internet access, because we control that resource in all the other nations, and you're just going to be left out. We won't do business with you anymore because we, the corporation, have the power and the overhead to be able to embargo you, a nation. And as we can see in the United States, not even the most powerful and gloriously democratic nations in the world have the ability to withstand the corrupting power of globalist corporations. Because let's be honest, the United States government is and has for decades been owned by these entities. People talk about Hillary Clinton being a globalist. Everyone pretty much agrees that Hillary Clinton, yeah, she's the queen of globalists. Okay, when has Hillary Clinton ever advocated for the abolition of the United States of America as a federal entity? When has that ever happened? When has she even said that in private? So while the representation of the will of the people and justice for the common man, which is what a functional government is supposed to do, are not going global, and indeed in many instances going into a bit of isolationism and going against the globalization trend, massive multinational corporations don't give a shit. They are going global, and they will at some point be just at a higher level of power than all of the nation states, and then they will be the de facto rulers of the earth. And you can make a good argument that a functional world government is the only thing that can combat this, because you cannot reverse globalization. You cannot say we will now stop having the internet and we will stop having trade routes across nations and continents. No individual nation in the world can go it alone anymore. The networks of production and distribution are too complex for individual nation-state players to handle. And if we want to regulate those networks, we need to do so on a higher scale. See, that's the irony with this whole boogeyman that Alex Jones and his mates have concocted over the last few years. The problems that are attributed to these globalists and their idea of a world government, ironically, all of those globalists benefit much more from the existence of fractured nation states than the existence of a unified world government, even if that world government was in some way dysfunctional, unless they built it themselves. Because do be clear about this, no matter what we do, a world government will happen. And if we do not form a world government of our own that is liberal and democratic and respects the civil rights of everyone, the corporations will create a de facto world government behind closed doors and while promoting the existence of nation states. And it is an easy thing to do. It's very easy to create the threat of your national sovereignty being violated by real entities, shadowy entities, or fictitious entities. Especially Americans care a lot about their national sovereignty. Their national sovereignty is a core part of their identity. They fought a war over this. So of course, portraying the business interests that benefit massively from the existence of national governments as people who would benefit more massively from the existence of a fictitious world government is easy to do and will scare people and will make them buy your supplements. The issue of dealing with the power of megacorporations and the massive problems that exist and have to be fixed before a world government can even be conceived of is a very, very long and complex topic, and I will not get into it today. Suffice it to say that all of the people you believe are globalists are not actually globalists. There are people who have money in politics and who instrumentalize the United States of America or whatever other nation they are in to do what they want to do instead of that government doing what it is supposed to do, which is representing the will of the voters and doing what is best for its populace. I could go on talking about this for 3 hours, but it would just result in nothing. It would result in nothing. It's too complex and large an issue. So thank you very much for having watched this. Take away from this that globalists are a fiction, they don't exist. I will be streaming on Twitch later today, Shadowrun Hong Kong, where we can see the world that the globalists want to create. Hillary Clinton is the president of the world in Shadowrun. I don't know if you know this, but that is true. That is official Shadowrun law. Trust me, I'm an expert. Consider becoming a patron of mine on Patreon. I have decided to suspend promoting the Make Support until the Make Support is fixed. So if you are on Make Support, do consider moving your donation over to Patreon. If you don't want to, that's fine. You're not going to lose any privileges that come attached to being a supporter of mine on Make Support. It's just something that is more convenient for me. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Follow me on Twitter, get on the Discord. We're probably going to have a horrible discussion with weird conspiracy theorists and actual unironic Nazis and probably unironic communists who also exist on my server for some reason. And it's going to be a whole lot of strawman arguments being thrown at each other over globalism, and I hope I have the willpower to withstand being sucked into it. So yeah, have a fantastic day, whatever nation state of the world you are in, whatever region of the world you're in, whatever city of the world you're in, whatever house of the world you're in or not. Maybe you're outside watching this. Why would you be outside watching this? There's so many beautiful things going on around you. Unless you're in a place that looks like shit, in which case, hey, thank you for watching this video. In that spirit, I love you all, and see you around, cunts.